What is going on? Today we are reviewing The Black Prism by Brent. Let's get into it. So, to start off the review, I would say that I enjoyed The Black Prism. I think it was a good read. Great magic system. It reminded me of fantasy Green Lantern, basically, or fantasy lanterns. I'm just going to throw out some just raw thoughts about the book. I finished it about a week ago. It was a good read. I wouldn't say I was like awestruck by anything. It didn't captivate me the same way that like the Stormlight Archives does, or Rage of Dragons, or even Malazan. But I did find it intriguing. I loved, again, the magic system. It was so fun. There was a couple characters that I wish we had more of, that we didn't really get as much of as I would have liked. Specifically, Karis White Oak, I think was her name. I didn't like the whole situation that her character was in throughout the book. I kind of wish that, I don't really want to spoil too much, but I wish we had, let's just say, more of her. Gavin was cool. I thought he was a cool main character. Well, I guess it's hard to say. I guess Kip is sort of the more so the main character, but maybe they're both sort of the protagonists of the story. It does feel kind of more veered towards Kip, though. There were some great reveals and revelations that we got in that small chunk at the beginning, but you know, the rest of the book came with some pretty cool reveals and interesting sort of expansions on the lore and magic system of the world. The characters that we got introduced to were pretty interesting. Corvin Danavis was he wasn't really in my list of characters I even cared for in the book, but soon he skyrocketed to the top. I would put him, so I put Corvin Danavis. I want to put Kip up there, but at the same time, Kip really annoyed me. And we basically follow Kip throughout most of the story, I would say, as he attempts to get vengeance against someone who, let's just say, did wrong by him. And that is a hell of an understatement. So yeah, we start this adventure with these two characters, but a few others as well. We get a couple more perspectives as the story goes on. And overall, I would say that it was a pretty enjoyable experience. The world building was great. The magic system is very interesting. I think it took a bit of time to get used to. I still don't think I have a great grasp, but by the end of the book, I felt somewhat comfortable in understanding it at a basic level. I'm not sure if that was the author's goal, but that's where I was at with it. Something that's also kind of throws me off in these fantasy books, it's usually technology that throws me off in a fantasy book. Depending on how advanced things are, it's one of those things that either works for me or doesn't. And the technology in this world, I mean, it's not totally clear to me where they're at still. Maybe I just failed to understand it through the descriptions we were given, but there are guns, and I believe they are flintlocks. I think it's like flintlock pistols and stuff that they use. I don't recall if there's anything more advanced than that, but something about it would throw me out of the story a bit when someone would pull out a gun. I don't really know how else to explain it. I'm hoping that when reading future installments that it feels a bit more a part of the world, but yeah, for some reason I felt a bit thrown off. But overall, I think that The Black Prism was a good read. If you're looking for a fantasy book with a very interesting magic system that you haven't seen before, with compelling characters whose motivations are intriguing, great character relationships and dialogue between people. Big highlight again, Corvin Danavis. Big fan of his. Gavin Guile had some great moments, especially when we got closer to the end of the book. So yeah, I would totally recommend this to fans of fantasy and those looking for a longer form adventure in fiction. But now I'm going to move on to spoilers. So if you have not read The Black Prism and you are interested in checking it out, then stop right here. But if you have read it, yeah, we're just going to be talking spoilers. So, I just want to get Kip out of the way real quick. I got really frustrated with just how down on himself he was. I just found it strange that, yes, all these terrible things were happening, but there were also some good things that were popping out of that too, He found out that he was a drafter, that he had abilities, that he had, and not just regular drafting, like potentially was it a bichrome? It was something like a super violet offset bichrome something, or a potential polychrome who could see super violet but couldn't manipulate it, something like that. I mean, by the end of it, we basically get shown that he's, I don't know, they haven't explained how you make a prism, but it seems that he has the capabilities of a prism. I'm pretty sure at one point he did do the one thing that only a prism can do, which was like divide light or something like that. I swear that he split light up and just siphoned color from it, or luxant from it. So I don't know if there's a difference between being a full spectrum. I don't know if you can be born a full spectrum polychrome and it's just like a rare thing that can happen and you also don't count as the prism, or yeah, they just haven't explained like what it means to be the prism fully yet, or rather how you become the prism, because if I recall, Gavin said that he became the prism at a specific age. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I don't know. Well, okay, Gavin, Dazin. Also, that reveal was weird. I didn't understand it. I was kind of thrown off. I had a feeling something was fishy when we got like that initial like third chapter where we didn't get a name. We just got like, they just used like he in the prison and stuff. That threw me off. I had a feeling that there was something kind of weird there, but how it all went down, I didn't expect. It was interesting too. I actually thought that Gavin, or Rhett, so I'm going to screw this up every time. I did think that Dazin was like this evil guy and that he had these sort of evil intentions, and that they would be shown as the story went on, but it didn't turn out that way. It does actually seem like of the two of them, Dazin was the decent one, or rather, yeah, like a more self-aware, less maybe pressured by his father, or I don't know, but it seemed like Gavin was actually kind of a dick. Excuse my language, but it did seem like he was pretty cruel, and it seemed that Dazin was actually a decent guy who was and is trying to do the right thing. A heartbreaking scene with his mother. That was probably my favorite scene in the book. That's the one scene that's been sticking in my head whenever I think about the Black Prism, is him speaking to, I don't know how to pronounce it, is it Felia Guile? Great scene. It was heartbreaking. That whole section with the passing, or the freeing, was brutal. And I loved the intercut that was happening between Lord Omnichrome's I cannot take that name seriously, but Lord Omnichrome's whole speech about the freeing, and this context of the Chromaria and what they do, showing like Gavin stabbing all these people and just killing them as they confess all their sins. It's like I said, Gavin again, you know what I mean, but it's brutal. While we're at that subject, Lord Omnichrome, I think I like the description of the character a lot more than the name. The name reminds me of a Transformer. I thought that they would call him like the Black Prism. I thought that Gavin in the prison was considered like the Black Prism, or maybe it's Dazin Guile is the Black Prism because he's like the prism that no one thinks is actually everyone thinks he's the wrong prism, so he's like a prism in hiding kind of thing, or I don't know. But I thought that this Omnichrome was going to be the Black Prism, and they would call him like the true Prism or something like that. But no, they call him Lord Omnichrome. And I feel like Omnichrome is like right on the line. If they called him Omnichrome, I'd be like, okay. If they called him Lord Prism or Lord Black Prism or something like that, I'd be like, okay. But Lord Omnichrome is just like, whoa. Okay. Karis is... They just... I didn't like what they did with Karis. I don't like that she was just a prisoner the whole time. I somewhat liked that it almost felt like Rask was humiliating her, the way he was treating her. I liked that aspect of it. It was interesting to see someone who is being shown as this competent, well, extremely competent, well-trained warrior who is in a position that would be quite rare for someone like her to have gotten. It was cool to see that being done to that kind of person because, you know, it was challenging her pride in a way too. But I also really wanted to see more of Karis in action, more like sort of espionage Karis stuff. I also was hoping for some sort of conversation between Karis and Gavin, Dazin, her just actually outwardly saying like, I know who you are kind of thing. It does make me want to read the sequel because I'm hoping that I would assume that we're going to sort of get more of that in the sequel. But yeah, I would have liked more Karis. I loved how much Corvin we got. I love Corvin Danovis. The conversation that he has with Dazin, and he runs into or goes and sees Gavin Guile, and he knows that it's Dazin, and they go out on the balcony and they have this whole conversation, and you know they get emotional and like hug each other. That's probably my second favorite scene in the book. The scene where Kip takes on the trial, and it's basically like a test of one's fear and resilience. I loved how that played out. I thought it was interesting how Dazin reacted at the end. I loved that they spoke about how Dazin is the only person that was ever able to do the test without giving up, and having the instructors, or rather the people doing the trial, like stop the trial. Yeah, I would assume that Kip would have gone through with it. The stuff with the wall being built, like that massive wall being built, that was cool. There was a lot of focus on it, a lot of focus on like building the wall, and certain parts of it was okay. Like it was cool that he got all of those warriors from the Prism War to come and help, or rather they offered their services to him. The conversations that a few of these people had with him, the one who had noticed, the moment that one guy came up and like called him out and was just thinking like, you don't seem like who you claim to be, I knew that he was going to kill him right then and there. I'm like, oh, this is a perfect excuse to literally stab someone in the heart. So he did that like it was child's play. And there was one more thing that happened that piqued my attention. Actually, there was two more things. There was the dagger that stabbed Dazin. I think when Kip looked at the dagger afterwards, when it was given to him, he saw that there was a little blue side on it, like a little gem or something that was on its blue side. And later we see that Dazin can't draft blue anymore, so my assumption is that the white dagger, whatever color you have it on, if you stab a drafter with it, it like siphons that part of the spectrum from them if they have it. So I'm assuming that's what happened to Dazin. Then there was the thing that happened where Dazin was in front of a bunch of King Garadul's men, and he was in the entrance to, like, it was during the whole battle, like the big war that happened with the wall and everything, and all of these guys ran in, and I think that he gathered as much light as he could, and then he just fired like a Kamehameha, basically, like a huge energy wave. So, and I think he just turned all these people to dust, like they just dead. So, yeah, I curious what that was. My assumption is it's not a color that he used, but more so like raw energy. Like maybe the Prism is able to use Luxin as literally just raw power and fire that. Just fresh thoughts. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say in terms of the Black Prism. Good read, good time, nothing too crazy, but good enough that I'm curious to see what happens in the sequel. I think it's the Blinding Knife, right? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please share, subscribe. It helps me out a lot. If you have anything to say about the Black Prism, please comment down below. I would love to talk to you about it. But until next time, I will see you on the next video. Peace out.